Jai Ma. So I hope everyone is awake. Each time a divine being comes to earth, he first of all gives his own example, embodying that consciousness. He shows us how to live, how to work, how to be. So, this is one part where he stands at the gate, as it were, of the journey, the help, the support, and everything else. And then he gives us a path, a way of life, which is not so much a set of do's and don'ts, because spiritual life cannot be regulated that way, but a set of attitudes, a kind of practice, an approach through which we ourselves can move towards that state which he wants to establish upon earth. So he becomes the door and he shows us the path, the way to travel. And then he gives us he creates a sangha or a group life, because a group life tends to, it's like a yajna. It multiplies, it has a multiplication, cascading effect upon earthly life, whatever he may be, whatever the divine being has brought to earth. And then to navigate through it all, he gives us the scripture. So we see this, at least last 3 or 4 avatars, we see this happening. So with Sri Aurobindo, the gate, the door is the mother, as we have read. She is there. She took a human body to show us how to be, how to live this life, and showed us what is possible within its framework. And her help, her consciousness is there. Her presence is there. And then Sri Aurobindo and the mother gave us a path, a way. Now this way, as we have seen in the morning, is not a technique, a process, but a way that is woven into the fabric of life. So it's not so much a method of do's and don'ts as much as it is a set of attitudes through which we move through life, navigate through life. And then they gave us scripture. They created, okay, now it's, yeah. So they created a group life. This group life is meant to, it's like a single candle and the number of candles which come together. So in this group life, we see these 3 things. One is the ashram, which is like a seed plot, very concentrated. That's a place where one is supposed to be completely concentrated and consecrated onto this life. The members who are there, who have chosen for this. And then there is a little more spreading out, diffusion through Sri Aurobindo Society. And then there is Auroville, where people from all over the world gather. They may not fully understand what really this ideal is, but they have a goodwill. They seek a higher life, a greater life. And then, of course, there are so many other islets of this life which are springing up everywhere. For instance, we have in Delhi, we have in Odisha, we have outside India, several groups which have come together to follow this ideal. The whole purpose is what cannot be done individually can be done much better if people come together. This is the idea. And now we come to the scripture. Partly we have already touched. The works of Sri Aurobindo and the mother run in several volumes. 35 volumes of Sri Aurobindo's writings, 33 volumes of the mother's conversation. It's not easy to navigate unless one is really fired. Then one keeps on reading, growing, practicing. Mother's writings are very simple, very easy. But then, if we have to ask one scripture that Sri Aurobindo gave and one scripture that the mother gave, which can help us, because it's very difficult Difficulty in the sense, given our lifespan, 35 plus 33 volumes. So just to read them is not easy. So the mother's prayers and meditation is the one work which gives us the path and is like the scripture given by her to mankind. It's her own experiences. And Sri Aurobindo gave us Savitri. Savitri is the work that Sri Aurobindo regarded as his most important work. He said all else is a preparation, Savitri is the message. He spent almost from 1960, if we see. We are leaving aside 1893 when he started a little draft, Earth and Beyond, but properly speaking, Savitri started in 1916 and it was completed just 2 weeks before Sri Aurobindo's physical withdrawal in 1950. So we can imagine the amount of love he poured in Savitri. He wrote and rewrote it 12 times. And I often say this, that Sri Aurobindo took so much pains. 12 times he rewrote it. We should at least read it once. So what is Savitri? Savitri is, he has poured his consciousness and the mother's consciousness together in this body of words. It's his word body, their word body. What does it mean? It means very simply that words are vehicles of consciousness and energy, and we all know it. Everyday experience of life, even ordinary word has a power. And depending on what we put in that word, a simple thing like no can mean many things. No, simple. The sound, the power of the word. Same way with a simple word like yes. So words have always been vehicles. Human speech is the unique highest faculty. If you really look at one of the differences between animals and humans is the power of speech, the power of expressions, and the Vedic rishis knew it. They called it Vak, and they did the same thing, and they lifted this power of speech to the highest possible intensity. That was the whole effort. What really is mantra? Mantra is, of course, you see that mantra in the higher worlds and bring it to man. But what it means is that it's the highest intensity to which human speech can be lifted up. And this speech lifted up to its highest capacity has a great creative power in it. Let's say, for example, even nowadays we know this very well, how books can influence a whole generation or more than that. Its power extends far beyond the individuals who are practicing it. Even ordinary books, even ordinary speech, ordinary words. Look at how the Gayatri mantra has guided and molded in India, the Indian mind for so long. The very idea that there is a greater consciousness from which we seek light to make our mind more illumined. Even the idea, of course, the mantra has sound as well as the substance. So this is how the mantra operates. So Sri Aurobindo gave us Savitri as the mantra of transformation. In other words, the highest possibility of the consciousness that Mother and Sri Aurobindo wanted to establish, his whole effort was to embody that consciousness in a body of words. And these words are just like any other mantra. When we read it with that, of course, faith, dwelling upon its meaning, we may not understand the meaning, doesn't matter. Still that mantra works, and that mantra slowly begins to do its magic. It's like a capsule of light. Whether you understand it or you don't understand it, it goes inside, releases light into the system and does its work. So Savitri is Sri Aurobindo's mantra of transformation. Thankfully, given in English language, whatever we may say about the difficulties, still English is something which most of us are able to read. So he has given it in English language, and the mother says that for those who want to follow the integral yoga, Savitri alone is sufficient to take us to the highest levels of the transformational yoga. And it is so true. So Savitri contains, it contains everything. It's, of course, outwardly is the story, in the framework of the story of Savitri and Satyavan, which as we know is a story of conjugal love conquering death. I think we all know the story of Savitri and Satyavan, no? So there is no need to recount it. It's the story of conjugal love conquering death. So here it's the story of love. What conjugal love? The love that binds the divine and the human. And together this love can conquer death. Here represents all that stands in the way of the highest possibility, highest consummation of human destiny. This highest consummation is not nirvana, it's a step. The highest consummation is divinization. Man should become one with the divine, not only within, but even in his mind, heart, life, body, in all that he does, in all that he is, in all that he speaks, in all that he feels and wills, it should be divine. It should be as if the divine himself is doing all this in him and through him. So this is the highest consummation, and Savitri helps us in that process. And I know so many people, at least a few people who never came to ashram, did not know of any other book of Sri Aurobindo or anything about the mother and Sri Aurobindo's life. One was a very fascinating person whom I met, and she had never known. And first time she came to know, oh, there is ashram, how to go there and all this. But she had such marvelous experiences, and her whole journey, which started in a state of depression. One, I am just recounting amongst so many. So she was in a state of depression in Mexico, going around one of these roads, and suddenly she saw on a roadside bookstore this Savitri. She didn't know what it means. She just picked it up out of just random, like she's feeling very depressed, doesn't know what to do. Picked up a book, let's read something. She was attracted and took it, and then she started reading. Her whole life changed, just reading and rereading Savitri. I asked her, would you like to come to the ashram? She said, no, this is enough. I get everything from Savitri. So this is the power of Savitri, as the name suggests. One is the story of Savitri and Satyavan. Sri Aurobindo says it's an ancient tale of the Vedic age. Of course, it's there in the Mahabharata, but it's a symbolic tale. Savitri is the word of daughter of the sun. She comes out of the darkness. Sun, emergent sun, that's Savitri. The light of sun, the power of the sun. And Satyavan is the human soul trapped in the forest of darkness. We are all little chinna Satyavan. And Savitri is that light which comes, and if the two are joined together, then the human consciousness, the Satyavan, escapes from the clutch of death and ignorance, and a new possibility manifests upon earth. That is the basic story, and all the characters are symbolic. Savitri's father Ashupati is the one who does the tapasya to establish Savitri upon earth. That, as we know, is Sri Aurobindo, who engaged in tapasya to establish that greater consciousness upon earth. We have been speaking of supramental. I think we have tried to understand supramental in very simple words. Supramentally, not mind raised to nth degree. This is one of the common errors we all make. Supramental. So mental, increase everything mental to a nth degree, it becomes supramental. No, supramental is that consciousness from which mind itself comes into existence. So it's not mind taken to its ultimate degree, because mind will remain mind. It is the very consciousness from which mind is born. It's hinted in our Vedic lore. Isha, for instance, the Ken Upanishad speaks about it when it says, Yan manuta na manute yena hur mano matang tadeva brahmantvam viddhi nedam yedidamu pasate. That consciousness from which mind itself is born, that from which speech emerges, that from which the senses emerge, that from which the force of life emerges, So that consciousness, not just to ascend into that, but he is trying to establish that consciousness into every part of a being, so that a new kind of a new creation, a new way of living, a new mode of living can take place. So this is the whole effort, and Savitri embodies this effort to its utmost. So Savitri is a mantra of transformation, as we know, and Sri Aurobindo has brought it to earth and manifested it. We'll just read a small passage to understand the Mahatta of Savitri. So we'll just read, the context is Ashwapati is sitting and he is looking into the future, and suddenly he hears a voice, Akashvani. And the Akashvani tells him that, look here, it's not enough to have this individual realization. There is so much work to be done upon earth. And then what happens when he hears this Akashvani, that is described. And this is the power of the mantra, and this is how Savitri works and acts within us. It's on page 375, the call to the quest. As I said, there are several ways of reading Savitri. One is read from cover to cover. If we don't understand, doesn't matter. We continue reading and slowly the meaning begins to spring up from within. The other way is that we can hear or read some of this, I won't use the word explanation, but just to put things in context, because it helps. For instance, what is book 1, what is canto 1, canto 2. So if we get a little background, so one of the works, I don't like to speak that way, but probably just as a part of the impersonal thing, I have myself written line by line, not explanation, but just to orient a little bit on Savitri, which will be soon available. I think soft copy is already available. Soft copy can be downloaded from Aroma. And the hard copy will come soon. 8 volumes, and it's very reasonably priced. All 8 volumes together is rupees 2000. So you can imagine. The whole idea was that to make it as easy and simple. And it also contains the entire Savitri. So because the lines are there and the passage. So automatically the whole. So we can take help from there or any of these. So many others talks are there just to get a background. It's not that anybody can explain Savitri, but just like when we go to Ganga and take a dip. I remember, I'll just take an analogy that when I went to Varanasi, so there was this boatman who took me around right from, now we have Modi Ji Ghat, Modi Ghat to Asi Ghat. So it was very nice. It's all Ganga, wherever you take, But there are so many different ghats, so he was taking me, and every ghat he would tell a little story. Manikarnika Ghat, यहाँ ऐसे नहीं, वो मत करना, यहाँ पर करीब नहीं जाना चाहिए. I knew them, but I was enjoying this young boys. And then he would say at the end, आप यहाँ प्रणाम कीजिए. फिर उसके बाद ये राजा हरिश्चंद्र का घाट है, राजा हरिश्चंद्र की कहानी उससे जुड़ा हुआ, आप यहाँ प्रणाम कीजिए. So it was very nice. अब ये दशाश्वमेध घाट है. I knew the stories, but the joy of it enhanced the joy. That's all. So any talks on Savitri are simply meant to enhance the joy of Savitri. Ultimately, one has to dip oneself in the Ganga and take the waters. So, but it just puts us a little in context so that it makes it so much little more enjoyable, little more simpler. So this is on page 375. There is a very beautiful conversation of the mother on Savitri. It was with Mona Sarkar. It's available now. I think it's on Aroma and other places also, where the mother on Savitri. So it's worth reading. If somebody wants and sends me a message, I can forward that whole writing. What mother has spoken about Savitri. So, page 375, as when the mantra sings in yoga's ear, we are not using the word yogi's ear, yoga's ear. When we are in a state of inner connectedness to the divine with a seeking heart, as when the mantra sings in yoga's ear, its message enters, stirring the blind brain, and keeps in the dim, ignorant cells its sound. See, the cells don't understand that way, but the vibrations they go inside. If you really look at it that way, the Nad, how it has built the whole world, the universe. So the vibrations continue to act upon the cells. The hearer understands a body of words, and musing on the index thought it holds, he strives to read it with the laboring mind. We had this little discussion this morning that, well, many times we read poems, we read Savitri. What is the use? Many people may not even be attentive, they are not able to understand. Doesn't matter. Let the music go. So the hearer understands a body of words. He strives to read it with the laboring mind, but finds bright hints, not the embodied truth. Then, falling silent in himself to know, he meets the deeper listening of his soul. A time comes when we are overbowled by Savitri. We probably fall asleep. नहीं समझ आ रहा, क्या करें? पढ़ते रहो. So धीरे धीरे, when we keep reading, after some time we are unable to understand. The word repeats itself in rhythmic strains. Thought, vision, feeling, sense, the body's self are seized unutterably, and he endures an ecstasy and an immortal change. We don't understand, but it continues to act till one time, a time comes when the soul awakens and listens. And after some time, the change begins to happen. It goes deep inside our very, seeps inside the consciousness. I remember getting out of anesthesia, and they ask, thapad maar ke, kuch karke hila ke, to say something. So I said, Savitri, Savitri, oh Savitri. So he got very alarmed and asked my wife, who is Savitri? Are you Savitri? So my wife said, Banda sahi hai, theek ho gaya hai. And then the first sentence I remember saying, all can be done if the God touch is there. He didn't understand a word. He said, pata nahi kya bol raha hai ye. Badbad kar raha hai. Thank God, otherwise he said delirious ho gaya hai. So she said, don't worry, he is fine. We understand what he is saying. So it goes deep within and emerges. It works inside. Even if outer consciousness does not understand. He feels a wideness and becomes a power. All knowledge rushes on him like a sea. Transmuted by the white spiritual ray, he walks in naked heavens of joy and calm. Sees the God face and hears transcendent speech. This is an experience in different degrees which different people have with Savitri, and it's a joy always to have our own experience. And in this yoga, one of the biggest aids several aids have been given. We spoke about in the morning about some ways and process, but several aids we must add to that. And of them, the greatest aid is Savitri, because it's available anywhere. We just need to read it or to hear it. Savitri is fortunately in mother's voice also available. with Sunila's music. And just to put it in the background and hear it is a marvel. So Savitri is the greatest aid. Of course, very difficult to say when it comes to greatest. Mother and Sri Aurobindo's pictures are there. These photographs are not just for remembrance, but the mother has said something of, even Sri Aurobindo has said the same thing, something of us is there in the photographs. So when you look at the photograph, meditate upon the photograph, you come in contact with our consciousness. Then of course Sri Aurobindo's relics are there, places are there, which are meant to breathe that atmosphere. That is the whole idea of having a center. That these are hubs of the supramental life. It doesn't matter how many people come or don't come, that's not important. The hub is there and it depends on just one person is needed just to ensure that the place remains what it is. And then people come, they receive, go, it's up to each one. Of course, the biggest hub is Sri Aurobindo Ashram, Pondicherry, where the Samadhi of Sri Aurobindo and the mother are there. And Sri Aurobindo has said, the mother has said, it is the place of central influence and it's charged with the supramental vibrations in its most intense form. So a visit to Sri Aurobindo Ashram is not simply a, what do they say, going to Mecca, Purna Kamana, no. It's to just bathe in that atmosphere, in that consciousness, and to come back after receiving it. And Sri Aurobindo says that there are people, disciples outside, who come to the ashram to receive the touch and then go back. And he has used the word charging the battery. So many people, it's become a very common word that people go to charge their battery to the ashram. Mother's music is there to help us. Their literature is there and so many other things touched by them. Here itself we have some of the things touched by Mother and Sri Aurobindo. Each of these objects, and of course here we have the relics, they contain something of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother's consciousness in matter. So we have a great opportunity just to come in contact with the very physical, in physical matter that consciousness is there. So these are the things apart from the inner journey which we spoke about, the help which is available, and now several, through podcast and other things, a little bit of orientation, understanding. So this is the vast world of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, and it is still growing. So sum and substance, read Savitri, read a little every day, read a passage, if one can write it, very nice. And if one wants to connect with just the background, there are some talks, there are books, which just puts us. Don't try to understand with too much not to take up a dictionary and try understanding Savitri. But they'll give us a background. What is book 1, canto 1? So otherwise the mind keeps playing. कि ये क्या हो रहा है, कहाँ हो रहे हैं, it was the hour before the gods awake means what? But when the little context is there, it makes it very easy. And then to swim, to float, to drown in Savitri. Savitri is a fire. Once it gets into us, we can't escape. We have to, all the layers get burnt one by one. Purified, transformed, everything. So this is the little background about Savitri. It's endless. We could go on for weeks on Savitri. It won't exhaust. Okay, so we'll take up some of these questions. The first question is, actually I should remove it because it's giving me an illusion that, I have to, I mean it's as if it is helping, but it's an illusion. It doesn't help. So I might as well raise my throat volume. Later on we can see what to do about it. No, something is amiss. Maybe, does that mic work? As long as people can hear, it's okay. One day I can afford to increase the amplitude. Huh? No, I have tried. Itna close. Okay, let me try. The question is, The hidden, no, I'm fine. See, it's okay. I mean, please keep the fan. I don't want, it's the same thing. If everybody will sweat, then one seat for me in hell will be, this fellow made us sweat. रहने दीजिए, कोई बात नहीं है. Let's be in the joy. It's okay. The hidden divine within the creation wants to manifest in the outer world through the process of evolution, which is the cause of this creation. Yes, evolution is manifestation. Let's put it like this. Now comes the question, in primary school, in standard 4th, a boy asks, Dad, PhD के बाद क्या करूँगा? Question सही है, logically सही है. But when the goal will be achieved and the evolution completes, what will be the cause of happenings of that new world? Okay, first of all, we use the word goal. We must understand that in a certain sense we can't speak of goal. Let's be very clear on that. It's delight. So delight is expressing itself in countless ways. You ask the ocean, what is your goal? क्या कहेगा? मौज है मेरी. मेरे नहाने के लिए आप बने हो, नहा लो. मेरे डूबने के लिए बने हो, डूब जाओ. मेरे ऊपर किताब लिखने के लिए आप बने हो, लिखो. मौज है. It's the ananda which is expressing itself, wants to express itself in million, billion, trillion, infinite ways. तो ठीक है, फिर सुपर माइंड कहां से आ गया? Without the super mind, this ananda gets distorted into pleasure, pain, and indifference. So, to start with, we need this basis of truth. We read that letter today or yesterday, I think, that to manifest divine love and ananda is the very goal, if you want to put it. But without the truth consciousness, if you try to bring it, very soon, divine ananda, divyananda, premananda changes into kamananda. This is the problem. So we need to first establish truth consciousness. It's a base for the unobstructed play of the divine Shakti and the divine Ananda. Unobstructed. Now when this play, the higher play, right now we are having a shadow play, practice match. But when the real play begins, unobstructed play of the divine consciousness through the transformed human vessel, what will we say? Where is the end? Does the infinite have an end? It doesn't have an end. It can express itself in countless ways, and yet there will be countless more ways to express itself. And if it expresses itself in those countless ways, still there would be count. By nature it is infinite. So we have to understand that for the play of the infinite in the finite, we need supermind through which the play can take place unobstructed. Then we will not speak of goal, but a constant manifestation of delight in million, trillion ways through the human vessel. And, well, will we get tired of it? No, because there would be always the newness. That's the beauty. It's not sameness, but constant newness. We give an example. When human beings came in the cave, they started their life in the cave, and the chimpanzee asked, क्या करने वाले हो भैया? देखेंगे थोड़े बड़े हो जाएंगे हम, अभी केव में पेंटिंग कर रहे हैं, एक और पेंटिंग करेंगे. अभी हम ये वाले पत्थर फेंक रहे हैं, फिर हम थोड़े बड़े वाले पत्थर फेंकेंगे. अब करते करते इवन माइंड के अंदर लुक एट द पॉसिबिलिटीज विच हैव इमर्ज्ड जस्ट बाय द मेंटल कॉन्शियसनेस. जस्ट इमेजिन हाउ मेनी पॉसिबिलिटीज हैव कम एंड स्टिल वी हैव नॉट एग्जॉस्टेड इट. अभी भी 5G के बाद 6G, 7G, AG, OG, पता नहीं कितने G. We look forward to. Now when the supramental consciousness is at play, free, unobstructed play, we cannot really say after that there is a point to be reached, because now creation is simply expressing itself infinitely. So that's the basic thing. But yes, if we want to put it in terms of technical terms, so we'll say, well, after writing the Vedas, Vyas Rishi wants to write Bhagavad Puran. Now you can't say that Vyas Rishi set it as a goal. He may want to write another new beautiful creation. So it may look like a goal, but this goal is, at the same point, there are new waves which are emerging very consciously. That's how one has to look at it. So goal in the sense, in terms of the play of time, something which comes subsequently, yes. But that would be another way, not really a goal where we are reaching from here to here, but expressing in countless ways. So that would be the simplest answer. Yeah. In the, not now, not yet, but it is beginning to express, it will express. The other day I was, supramental consciousness, you are speaking. Delight, yes. The moment it tries to express, what happens? We either burst crying, थोड़ा ज़्यादा आनंद होता है, तो आनंद से भी रोना आता है, दुख से भी रोना आता है, बिकॉज हमारे पास एक आंसू ही बचे हैं भगवान को देने के लिए. Yeah, that's true. Because right now the body is not ready to bear it. Even a little joy, ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं चाहिए आनंद फील करने के लिए लोगों को. इंडिया पाकिस्तान मैच करा दो, बस देखो उसके बाद क्या होता है. एंड अगर जीत गया बस उस पर दैट्स एनफ. हमारी लिमिट जो है ना वही हाँ पहुँच गई. अब उसके बाद क्या होता है इंडिया पाकिस्तान मैच जीतने के बाद? अब देखिए ये कैसे वो जॉय एक्सप्रेस होता है. कोई पटाखे फोड़ते हैं, कोई लड्डू बांटता है, कोई हनुमान जी के पास जाके ये करता है वो करता है, कोई लोग बैठ के पार्टी करते हैं. हम लोग भी करने वाले हैं ऑपरेशन सिंदूर, चलो मिलके. तो क्यों? क्योंकि हमारी एक लिमिट होती है, उसमें अब ये वाइडनिंग हो रही है. So it does express, but human body right now will suffer a breakdown because it cannot take even an onrush of human joy. So that's why the body has to be prepared. It will break down otherwise in that ecstasy. See what used to happen to Sri Ramakrishna beyond a point, and one of his dancing postures is so amazing. He's dancing, invoking Mother Kali. You feel he has become identified with Mother Kali. His facial expressions are like that. But the body is not able to bear. So yes, the one of the work will be when the body is transformed, it will manifest delight in countless ways without breaking down. Yes, please.
Is Sat Chit Anand, the delight is manifested in the manifestation.
Yes.
In the absolute existence, is there delight?
Yes, it's self-contained. The difference is between delight which is self-contained is bliss. There is a very subtle difference in English language. And delight which expresses itself, or that bliss expressing itself, becomes delight and love burst forth. So it is the difference is simply self-contained in the absolute. It's hidden inside. Satchidanand, everywhere is Satchidanand. In Sat, there is absolute consciousness, absolute force, absolute delight, but the frontal aspect is of Ekameva Dvitiyam, which has nothing to do with the world.
So, bliss is the essential.
Yes, for creative, the moment Sat, let's very beautifully, so when Sat is stirred by Chit Tapas to create, delight emerges. So we can take also that Sat is the masculine, I am putting it in a figure, and Chit is the feminine. When they come together, the offspring is Ananda. So that Ananda goes into creation and it fills us. But right now, that Ananda gets very diminished, limited, because the vessels are not ready. For an average person, what will he say? He say, आज हम क्लब गए थे, हमने खूब 3 पत्ती खिली, दारू पी, बड़ा आनंद आ गया. बिकॉज ही उस नाली में ही उसको आनंद आता है. सो दैट्स द लिमिटेशन ऑफ द वेसल. और योगी से बोले कि तुम अकेले बैठ के ध्यान लगा के क्या करो, बोले बहुत आनंद अनुभव कर रहा हूँ. बोलिए आप. अब उसी तरह से ये आनंद के मैनी वेज ऑफ, सो बॉडी हैज टू बी रेडी. सो सत के अंदर चित तपस है, जैसे ही चित्त तपस जागती, इसी को एक्चुअली वो पुरुष सूक्त में है. चित्त तपस इज डिवाइन मदर. सो डिवाइन मदर स्टर्स हिम, उठो शिव जी, नृत्य करना है, लास्य करना है. तो जब सत जागता है, जानता है स्वयं को, सी इट इज डिस्क्राइब्ड एज स्टोरीज. सो स्टोरी इसकी, उसको नहीं पता था है कि नहीं है, आप उसको है भी नहीं कह सकते, नहीं है भी नहीं कह सकते. सडनली इट्स वोकन अप बाय द स्टर. दैट स्टर इज चित्त तपस, जिसको कई लोग डिजायर कहते हैं. नो, इट्स नॉट डिजायर. देयर इज दिस नजिंग, एंड व्हेन सत अवेकन्स टू इट्स ओन इन्फिनिट पॉसिबिलिटीज, under the pressure of chit tapas, it releases into creation. And that release of possibility in creation, visarga, is karma. कर्म की अगर ओरिजिन में जाएं तो कर्मा इज नॉट मैन डज कर्मा. मैन इज ओनली ए ट्रांसमीटर ऑफ द चेन ऑफ एनर्जी विच हैज एंटर्ड इनटू क्रिएशन. Man can be either a distorting medium of that power, or he can be only a transparent instrument channel. So when he acts according to Svabhava, he lets the karma flow through him without being affected, and he becomes free. But when he obstructs the flow of energy, when he creates obstacles, then he distorts the whole energy and whole manifestation. After karma, isn't it? The Gita says, doesn't Shri Krishna says, I am the origin of karma. Visargaha, he is the one. Karma starts from there. That answers the question, why and soul which has never had any birth, what is its karma? So karma starts from there. It's that energy which has gone into creation, power. And we are all vessels through which it is moving. We obstruct it. And therefore we have certain, these consequences are purifying processes. Because that power, so whereas that power acts in its purity in an individual through the Svabhava. That's what Svabhava is about. But ambitions, desires deviate us. So this is the same thing. Ananda moving through all the vessels changes into, because of the ego and ignorance, changes into pleasure, pain and indifference. But it's meant to manifest Ananda. Anandarth hetu. ही तो है ना लास्ट में, रसो वैसहा. वो पूरी उपनिषद की कहानी है ना, अंत में आनंदार्थ हेतु. इट इज फॉर द आनंदा दैट दिस क्रिएशन एक्सिस्ट, विच इज सो पॉजिटिव. Unlike a traditional Buddhist idea that it's because of desire and you have to get out of desire. But it's because of Ananda that this creation is. Not any chal, not any maya which has put us into it. It's for the joy. And because of the joy, Kisha, bliss is the secret stuff of all that lives. So in Savitri, we'll read some lines subsequently. The second question is it incidental that late 19th or early 20th century many saw many luminous together, or is it planned or some other predestined? It's true that there are epochs of time when in different places simultaneously there certain possibilities emerge, like Confucius, Buddha, Socrates. You'll see more or less very close together in terms of time, because a kind of possibility is manifesting. You'll see a kind of harmony in the teachings, like we see in Bengal, not today's Bengal, in a time in Bengal when we see many of the great ones, they took birth in Bengal. All kinds of revolutionary yogis, sages. But what happens when this happens? Like Kashmir, at one point of time, Kashmir was the place chosen. So Shaivism, Buddhism, Tantra, Christianity, esoteric movements, Islam, Sufi, all these came. Abhinav Gupta, the famous, the Tantra of Abhinav Gupta, all these came into Kashmir. But the problem is that it's like a wealth which you cannot hold. If you cannot hold the wealth, because there will be chain snatchers all around. So Kashmir couldn't hold that wealth, and chain snatchers came. But these were not ordinary chain snatchers, they were barbarians who came. Because there was wealth. They knew कि ये problem है. See, Why was Ravan busy destroying the Yajnavedis of the Yajnashalas of the rishis? रावण को पता था प्रॉब्लम तो यहां पर है, राजा वाजा मेरा कुछ नहीं बिगाड़ सकते. ये वैदिक संस्कृति के जो आधार हैं, इनसे उसको डर था कि इनकी ऊर्जा लोगों के अंदर से असुरत्व खत्म कर देगी, मेरा राज्य कहां रहेगा. दैट्स व्हाट Sri Aurobindo is suggesting. Spiritual evolution means what? When human beings will grow into spiritual beings, many of these tendencies, divisive tendencies, will drop off. When they drop off, how will the politicians and the money people play? That's why even today India is the hub on which everybody is attacking, covertly or overtly. सबको पता है कि भारत का जागृति मतलब मिथ्यात्व का विनाश. तो ये नहीं कि अमेरिका साथ खड़ा है, ये सब अमेरिका, चीन, इस्लामिक वर्ल्ड, एवरीबडी. बिकॉज इफ इंडिया सर्वाइव्स एंड ग्रोज, विच इज डेस्टाइन्ड टू बी, इट मीन्स ऑल देयर दुकान गेट्स क्लोज्ड. ऑथेंटिक का सामान मिल रहा है तो आप वो इमिटेशन स्टफ में क्यों जाएंगे? सो दैट्स वाई. सो सेम थिंग हैपेंड विथ कश्मीर, सेम थिंग हैपेंड इन बंगाल, because it was the hub of, if I may say, the Indian awakening at one point of time. Maharashtra also, but particularly Bengal. So you see what happened? All these forces Shadmavesh se aayi. And what is Bengal today? Because they couldn't guard the treasure. It's a very sad story. If you see about Bengal, how slowly. And same thing, Christian world came, Islamic world came, and then all kinds of so-called pseudo-intellectual. It has to wake up, it has its destiny, but how much damage it takes place. Same thing with Bharatvarsh, that there are forces which want to destroy it. So, it's not incidental, there is a purpose. Bengal became the hub to receive the divine Shakti at one point of time, but Bengal, like Kashmir of once, it couldn't contain it, and in the process it broke down, and today it's for the moment a sad state, but it will wake up. There is no doubt about it. Ultimately, divine has the last shot. Okay, chalo, anyways, this we'll read subsequently. So we come to question 3. Why and most of these personalities did not jump into political arena for liberation of the country? Well, in Bengal, people did jump. Most of the people who were in the revolutionary movement, they were yogis, the top leaders. And it's not that they didn't jump into revolutionary activity. Even a person like Swami Vivekananda, though he did not jump actively, he did galvanize the country. So each of them had their own role, their own place to play. But politics of today, yes, if you ask me, because there are no yogis left of that kind. So that time they did jump into politics, they did try in their own way. But the common man was not ready. See, this is the problem always. So in the Vedic era, they tried a solution which obviously was no solution. So they tried to guard those who are specifically will become the cup bearers of this change. So they created an elitist, not in that sense, but in one sense. There were Brahmins and Kshatriyas who were meant to hold this treasure and guard it. The intent was to create a type of humanity whose sole purpose was that guard this treasure. Its intent was not bad. But as happens, after some time it created a division in the society between the greater and the lesser, and the lesser could not follow. Lesser in terms of consciousness, there was revolt, all this. This happened in Greece also, it happened everywhere. It happened actually all over the world. So there was a time when people tried to create it by creating, because for everybody mass movement is not easy, because masses will eventually bring it down, whatever one may do. So the idea was, let there be some people who are guardians and custodians of the spiritual wealth. And this wealth was guarded by those whom those days, not today Brahmins, but they were called as Brahmins, and the Kshatriya's role was to ensure that these guys are protected. That's why Lord Rama says, he takes it upon himself that I'll guard those Yajnavedis and Yajnashalas. Specifically, he does that because he understands the importance. But obviously the common man then and common man today still was cut off. So that nature doesn't want that. Nature wants at some point everybody to be included. So what has nature done? It has destroyed that old structure. So please don't say now Brahman or Kshatriya or ye or wo. चले गए, कोई कौन ब्राह्मण बचे हैं अभी, नाम के पांडे बचे हैं. पांडे की ही मजाक उड़ा सकता हूँ अपने नाम का. कोई दूसरा बोलेगा अच्छा मेरे बारे में बोलता है, इफेक्ट है. तो वो नहीं बचे ना कस्टोडियंस ऑफ नॉलेज जो एक समय होती थे. सो नाउ नॉलेज इज बिगिनिंग टू स्प्रेड टू ऑल अर्थ इन डिफरेंट वेज, एंड देयर इज एन दिस इज ए गॉड्स प्लान एक्चुअली. What happened in the Trojan War, and slowly now it will seep and emerge in its own different ways. So yes, there have always been guardians specifically, but slowly that thing is lost. It's re-emerging. Sadhana in ashram and outside. Sadhana is sadhana, let's be very clear, whether you are in ashram or outside. The fundamentals are just the same, which we spoke about in the morning. They are primarily inner. We have to do open to grace, turn to mother. The mother is the key. Mother is everywhere. Mother is in everything. Somebody asked Sri Aurobindo, somebody asked the mother, should I do sadhana here or in the world? So mother says, the world is everywhere. The divine is everywhere. You choose. Ashram has its own unique advantages, if I may say so, but it has its own unique difficulties. The advantages, of course, Mother and Sri Aurobindo's physical presence in the atmosphere, the samadhi, it's amazing. हमारी साधना तो यही है, जो कुछ हुआ समाधि पे जाके सारा which is wonderful. But sometimes when things are very easy, it creates its own difficulty. Like one may start thinking, अब मैं आश्रम में रह रहा हूँ, I have reached the. इसीलिए श्री अरविंद ने ये सब स्वामी वामी का झगड़ा नहीं किया. थैंक गॉड ही डिडंट से स्वामी अलोकानंदा गुरु वस्त्र. ऐसे ही चढ़ जाता है व्यक्ति, अरे अब हम आश्रम आ गए, हम भगवान स्वर्ग में रह रहे हैं. अभी स्वामी उमी बनाने से तो वहाँ पर कोई ऐसा नहीं है. ये बहुत अच्छा है टू कीप यू ग्राउंडेड. अदरवाइज द बिग डिफिकल्टी इज वन मे टेक इट फॉर ग्रांटेड दैट आई डोंट नीड टू डू एनी साधना. दिस ए प्रॉब्लम. आश्रम में ये होती है बिकॉज थिंग्स आर वेरी ईजी, so readily accessible. So one may take it and not really engage in the yoga and lose time and energy. So there is both aspects. Outside world, of course, much more difficult. There is no doubt about it. खासकर शहरों की आमद रफ्त में यूं रोज खोती जिंदगी, कतरा कतरा बूंद बूंद रोज खोती जिंदगी. So ये इस हाल है. उसमें आपको थोड़ा सा भी टाइम मिल जाए याद करते हुए, इट्स नॉट ईजी. आई हैव सीन बोथ साइड्स. बट इन द बार्गेन यू आर केप्ट ऑन टेंटर हुक्स. मच मोर कॉमनली यू कॉल माँ माँ माँ. देयर इज अ कॉन्स्टेंट नीड. सो वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू से. अल्टीमेटली इट्स ए क्वेश्चन ऑफ डेस्टिनी. सम पीपल विल डू आउटसाइड, सम विल डू. बट इवन इन श्री अरबिंदो's फिजिकल प्रेजेंस देयर वर disciples who were outside, there were disciples in the ashram always. So yes, especially after 56, society center, and absolutely there have to be sadhaks all over in the world. That's very true. And it's important. And one will feel inspired. Some will feel inspired to do that outside, some will feel inspired to stay in the ashram. And that's an occult arrangement. There are other aspects of it. But sadhana is sadhana, and one should go by one's own deep inmost inspiration. It can be done anywhere, that's for sure. There is no doubt about it. One more question we'll take, then we can break off for tea. Sanatan Dharma and nationalism go together as per Sri Aurobindo. Has the parabola changed with the present context? No. If India loses Sanatan Dharma, there is no point in, like, what is India then? Another Western country? Huh. Oh, that's one. Yeah, so Sanatan Dharma is basically the law of being. And in its origin it means the law of truth. So by law of truth means truth, which is the ultimate divine reality, it is there in everything and everywhere, and it is unfolding itself in its own unique way in every creature. So in Indian Sanatan Dharma context, there is no standard do's and don'ts for everyone. So there is the dharma of the animal, dharma of the flower to blossom, dharma of an age, dharma of a child, dharma of a wife, dharma of a husband, dharma of a Brahmin, dharma of a Kshatriya or the warrior class. Kshatriya ka dharma alag hai. अब वो अभी Kshatriya may not be with, but there are warriors. So warriors cannot say, I want to sit and meditate on the battlefield. You have to fight. That's your dharma. This is the dharma of those who are into business. So the dharma is, in Indian context, a very vast, all-embracing, all-comprehensive law of life. That's why Sri Aurobindo uses the word a mighty law of life. So at different stages also, there are different dharmas. There is the dharma of the sannyasis. There is the dharma of somebody who is engaged in grahastha. So dharma, basically the law of truth. What is the principle behind this law of truth? Is it again set of do's and don'ts for different people? No. The principle of dharma is whatever leads you on the evolutionary path towards the unfolding of the truth, towards the discovery of truth and unfolding is dharma. Very simple. So in each one, it will happen in a different way. And whatever prevents, comes in the way, is adharma. So what is truth? Truth is unity, harmony, light, beauty, strength, so vastness. Whatever is leading mankind and individual towards that is dharma. Nothing to do with religion. Religion is outdated. Religion should be thrown out now. I mean, it can be kept. I'll tell you about religion in a moment. In India, it never was religion. In fact, this is one of the things that the West has done by translating certain terms, and they have destroyed it. It was a way of life, but not any way of life. Shashi Tharoor will say it's a way of life. Anybody can do anything. No. It's a way of life that led you toward the discovery and the unfolding of the deepest truth within us. So, it doesn't matter whether you are a secular, religious, believer, not believer. No. So, basically it is dharma is that. And it's very vast and it evolves. It's evolving dharma. So, what is valid for a child is not valid for, 20 years of age. What is valid in a certain situation is not valid in another situation. There is even something called as apad dharma. When you are in a state of emergency, then there is a dharma when you have surrendered yourself to the divine. Sarva dharman parityaja. Then nothing applies except the divine command. So you see, it's a mighty law of life. And this is an evolutionary principle, dharma in. But religion is simply when it changes this deep inner truth into a set of do's and don'ts and an external rituals, that is also okay. And then it says exclusively club. Only this, no other way. And then it goes one step further. Only this way, otherwise you have no right to exist. That's not religion. That's why I say openly, Islam is not a religion. I don't call it a religion at all. If anything, it's the most adharmic thing. So, because I'll define it my way. Why should I define it your way? You are smartly putting everything as religion. No, it's not religion. There is, yes, whatever truth may be there in it, now people have forgotten it, how it is received. I refuse to see them at par or even try to compare Sanatan Dharma with Islam and, even modern Christianity for that matter. No, it's not. Because what you are saying is a set of rules, do's and don'ts, and external rituals and exclusivity, whereas Sanatan Dharma is all about inner evolution. You don't believe in evolution. So, it's finished. So, this is what Sanatan Dharma is about. It's not about the externalities. They came later, and it is true even today. You may be a deep engaging with Sanatan Dharma without observing any of the fast or rituals. We know that. Nothing wrong if you want to do it. Sanatan Dharma doesn't say don't do it. It's
Hinduism, I hope I'm not political, may or may not be religion. Or is it?
Hinduism is see, there are three things. I've given a talk on this. Sanatan Dharma is the core, the soul, spirit. Hinduism is the philosophy that flows from it. So, for example, the philosophy is that there is one truth And the Vipra Bahuda Vadanti, they call, the wise call by many names. This is a philosophical thing. Then you can look at it as one alone, you can look at it as one, and the other, you can look at it as a qualified. So these are schools. So Hinduism is the philosophical offspring out of Sanatan Dharma. Hindutva is the same offspring in life, an aggressive form which is needed at times when you are you are confronting the, dangerous elements. So you need a Shivaji Maharaj, Samarth Guru Ramdas to face the onslaught. You can't say, I'll just do meditation and find a way to God. So these are three layers in which Hinduism exists. Its core is Sanatan Dharma. Without Sanatan Dharma, schools of philosophy have no meaning. And schools of philosophy is fine, but there is the real life challenges. So that's where Hindutva comes. Hindutva is about manhood, which includes strength, wisdom, and love. This is the triumvirate of manhood in Hindutva. So this is how one has to see. In the soul, it's Sanatan Dharma. In the mind, it is Hinduism. And in life, it becomes Hindutva. So they draw from each other. This is how, a very simple way to understand it. But it is not religion as it is seen in the West. So as seen religion in the West, that is become dated and is going to go away. Advancing march of mankind, nothing else will survive, because youngsters will question. Many youngsters are giving up religion precisely, and we should be careful even in Hindu thought, because if we try to follow that and insist on children that you must do this ritual and go to temple every day, they are not going to accept it, because times are changing. So we need to understand the soul is more important. That's how, as I said in the morning, Nachiketa, I think yesterday, Vibhishan abandoned his elder brother. Ram didn't say, oh Vibhishan, you shouldn't say that, do that. Brother, elder brother, you must obey him. Does he say that? No. Bharat abandoned his mother. Lord Ram didn't come and castigate him. Oh Bharat, you have done a great sin. What does he do when he meets Bharat? Oh, that scene in Ramayana is adbhut. भरत मिलाप का जो सीन है वो तो मतलब उसमें आता है जो रोना है, मतलब जो राम का भरत से मिलन है. Rama doesn't tell him that why did you do it, you are supposed to obey your mother. So that's how Sanatan Dharma is, a very vast, mighty law of life. So what was the question? Sanatan Dharma and nationalism. Yes, because India as a nation is meant to guard this Sanatan Dharma. There is no other, otherwise it will become another West. It needs military power, it needs everything. But if that becomes its way of life and the principle of living, then India is no more India. This classic example is Japan. Japan lost the culture of the samurai, and it has become another Western country. That we should be careful.
The question further down in Pakistan, because the samurai has to be adopted.
Yes.
Right? And Kali sword has to come. You have to identify against who.
Yes.
So we would like to dilate on that.
Yes, of course. So here the adharma, that's how the concept is. See what went wrong in Indian polity. And Sri Aurobindo points it out. He says, we cannot solve the Hindu-Muslim problem, now I am coming straight to that, by the Congress politics of appeasement. That time there was only one party. Of course, they were moderates and the nationalists. He says that policy will not help. So what line we took? We took the line of politics of appeasement. That should not be there. Everybody is a brother. But you can't say this brother is more equal and greater. If a Muslim commits adharma or a Hindu commits adharma, you have to deal with that as it is. It's irrespective of your religion. And see what Babaji did. Babaji ने तो वही किया ना, पहले विकास दुबे को गोली मारी. अभी कोई कह नहीं सकता कि आप पढ़े हो मुख्तार अंसारी के खिलाफ, because he has shown by his actions, if you do this, doesn't matter what you belong to. So that's why it should be, well, if you want to put it in modern terms, law is law. You can't give all these, see how people try to save, even the Supreme Court, it will admit. So adharma is adharma. As simple as that. But to understand dharma and adharma requires a great degree of subtlety. Ah.
I mean, institutionalized follow. And how do you address that through dharma?
Yes, so wokeism is nothing but it breaks down every possible social order. It has a plus and a minus side. Plus side is it's breaking down everything. So it's creating a flattening, it is kind of leveling things. Well, leveling at one point helps because something new can emerge. But the problem of wokeism, it is using it as a very selective weapon. Wokeism and liberalism is allied to the communist and the Islamist lobby. Because behind it are those, we know, who are the people with money and who are standing. If you look at it, this whole politics, money, even now, I mean, क्या बोला जाए, वो इतनी गंदगी है कि वो अमेरिका हो या कोई भी हो, money is there which is ruling, money is the Lord. So obviously, these things, the asura of falsehood is going to put across. And that's where our work is, to bring to light that, well, if you create total confusion and chaos, that, well, it's up to you, a child says, and I have confronted wokes, and that was recently in Australia, and I can share this little experience, then maybe we can take a break and then come back. So this is a very nice conversation, incidentally. So one of the ladies, she was from Iran, she was a Muslim woman, but see, paradoxically, she had to run away. Run away, why? Because she can't do what she has to do. And so she ran away, but she stands for the works. And suddenly she says, but India में women को खाना बनाना पड़ता है, ये करना पड़ता है, ये वो करना पड़ता है. तो मैंने कहा एक मिनट, वो पूरा वर्क शुरू हो गया. मैंने कहा यहाँ पर 25 इंडियन वीमेन बैठी हैं, आप उनको पूछिए, उनको ये जॉयसली करते हैं या कोई उनको पकड़ करके खाना बनवा रहा है. Everybody said, I said, this is culture. It may not be valid in your culture, which is fine. But in India, it is considered a great joy to feed when somebody comes. A woman does it happily. So you have to understand the context. Yes, she should be educated. Yes, our women are educated, at least now. I said they are doing every sphere. Still, she likes to do it, and it's something happy because she is the. And then I gave a whole understanding of a man-woman relationship, which of course went above. Then I said, see, tell me one thing. I asked her. I said, all this, she was telling me about wokeism. I said, tell me one thing. All these wokes talk about India and, Ramayana as being, anti-feminist, which I said, okay, केकई की बात सुनकर दशरथ जैसा राजा, उसने राम को अबैंडन कर दिया, राम जैसा क्षत्रिय चला गया. आपको यहां पर एंटी फेमिनिज्म दिख रही है? ये कौन सी एंटी फेमिनिज्म है इसमें? So then I explained the Sita. Then I said, okay, you are picking up a story of Ramayana and Mahabharata, which you yourself would doubt by your own standards, and trying to indict Indian culture. I said, why don't you speak up against burqa? So she became quiet. I said, आप बोलिए ना, तो हमको लगेगा कि भाई आप जहां भी अन्याय हो रहा है नारी के खिलाफ आप खड़े हो रहे हैं. तो वो कहते हैं कि वो तो but also we have to see her. I said, I have not heard a single woke raise voice against the oppression of women in Islam. I said, बोलने से आप परेशान हो जाते हो. Then I asked her, I said, tell me, why did you come away from here? It was a little below the belt, but I knew that. I mean, you can't help it. I said, then she became quiet. He said, yeah, I understand. I said, you understand, but the wokes don't understand. I said, speak about it. रामायण कब हुई थी? आप तब पकड़ जाओ कि भाई माता सीता को, ओके, इवन इफ यू डोंट वांट टू जस्टिफाई, फाइन. पर आज के कंटेक्स्ट में, if you compare the modern Hindu and the modern Muslim in Saudi Arabia, whom do you feel is, Afghanistan, whom do you feel is oppressing women? I said, do you have a say? So she became quiet because there is no answer. So the problem is in its selective approach, and all these approaches are against Bharat. We need to understand, because Bharat, if Bharat survives, that's what Sri Aurobindo said. Again, we come back to that question. It is the Yagyavedi where the lamp of Sanatan Dharma continues to burn. And if this lamp is dimmed, is still okay, it can come up. But if by any chance, God forbid, If this lamp was to be extinguished, light will go away from the world. That's the importance of Bharatvarsh and Sanatana Dharma. And we all need to guard it. It's our duty.
Just taking this further, if ashram or you or other people like you are taking that position, the vocations will react to it, right? And you know how they react. The institution, party. Are we prepared to face that?
Absolutely. Yeah. हाँ जी बिल्कुल, मैं तो जा चुका हूँ, मुझे पता है. I'm very proud of being a Hindu and I have no qualms about it. I myself, Sri Aurobindo wrote long back, it is God's will that we should be Indians and not Europeans. But yes, one must understand and know. You should be able to respond. मैं तो बहुत बार ये बात कर चुका हूँ कि भाई मैं तो, मेरी पहचान है ये भारतवर्ष और मैं तो उसकी बात करूँगा, आप अपनी बात करो. I have no issue. So yes, condemnation क्या कंडेम करेंगे? They will say कि नहीं नहीं आपको हम, मैं तो बड़ा खुश हूँ कि ठीक है हमको आपके क्लब में थोड़ी आना है. खाएगा condemnation. So yes, we should be courageous. I feel a Hindu should be courageous. His soul should be courageous. And ये क्या है? उनके क्लब में कौन जाना चाहता है? कौन जाना चाहता है वहाँ? वो क्या है उसमें? दारू पियो और नाच गाना करो, ये कोई चीज़ है? मतलब sometimes I have spoken as brutally and honestly in a typical Western setting, city center of New York, where all the Western, these people were sitting. I said, see, you have to understand a certain context, that from the Indian point of view, this thought that you are carrying will be regarded as barbaric. Are you ready to take it? I said, your thinking will be regarded in India as barbarians. Then I explained the difference between Swachandata and Swatantrata. I went into Suparnika syndrome. ये तो अपनी terminology है. आप माता सीता को अबला कह रहे हो, look at her स्वतंत्रता, her fire. Husband now चलेगा, but I stand by my own truth. I said, वहाँ एक सुपर्णखा आपके यहाँ भरी पड़ी हैं कि लक्ष्मण नहीं तो राम चलेंगे, राम नहीं तो कोई और चलेगा. I said, ये कल्चर तो बहुत ही हमारा पास्ट में राक्षस प्रवृत्ति के मनुष्य करते थे. Anyways, I think we'll stop here and have a little tea and then come back. But thank you for those enlightening discussions.